Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here, and Robert Kennedy Jr. is on fire. On fire. Now, I've already seen some comments in the chat waiting to go live criticizing RFK Jr. Let me say this. I don't agree with all this guy's policy. I don't know about all of his past. I don't know that he's the best thing since breakfast or a more moral human being than any of the other 20 people that have set foot on that stage. So then why would I want him up there at least to run? Well, recently and for some time now, he has been making huge waves about the vaccine issue and choices for parents. In fact, I know a lot of you thought that this was going to be about the headlines of him naming who he believes killed his father. And yes, that's going to be part of it. But we're also going to go to this video where, we're not going to play the whole thing, but just what he says in the first 30 seconds is so important. And whether he were to win or not, and we'll get into all that in a moment, just bringing up these issues that are completely devoid of the conversation in this 2020 election would be huge. Okay, so let's continue on. Here's the deal with Robert Kennedy Jr. and his accusations about his father's murder. Now, he's hinted he doesn't believe what happened to his uncle. And now, obviously, his father, he's had that for some time. He's never named anybody. And we all know that his nephew, JFK Jr., died when he was telling people he was running for president. So obviously I get why he's not on that stage, speak softly and carry a big stick. But the problem is that these need to be national issues. So before we get into what he said on Twitter, and I just recently checked his Twitter. I'm not sure if he took these tweets down, but again, he already made the news on talking about who he believes actually fatally shot his father. Okay, and it's not Sirhan Sirhan. But before we get there, I also want to point this out right here. He said this. This is a video from the 11th. He may have said it on the 10th, or it could have been just yesterday. It was sent to me via one of my tips, so I appreciate you, the audience, sending me a lot of good stuff out there as well.
And it's a sad day for our country.
Yes.
And I have to ask a question, and I'd like to ask these legislators who voted for this god-awful bill. If we can give government and big industries the right to inject untested medical products that are zero liability into our children coercively, where does the power of government end?
Right.
What else can they order us to do? Can they do the same thing that they do in China, which is to tell people that they have to abort their babies for the good of society?
Let's just stop it right there. Hit so many amazing points. So, again, why isn't this guy running? Well, I think that he realizes that he doesn't want to be part of the national spotlight and be criticized. Can you imagine if the media had to spin these very real issues? And what he's talking about here is, this bill, you can see it right there, SB 276 and SB 714 was signed into law. And basically, you can't even get a medical exemption for your child if they've suffered a seizure from a vaccine or a horrible reaction, et cetera, et cetera. You still can't get that exemption anymore. And that's why he's speaking about this. And now he's talking about, the Chinese one-child policy that they had for a very, very long time. What are the limits of the power of government? And that is not anything that you've seen on this stage. So on top of this, and I'm encouraging people to go check these Children's Health Defense out yourself. And if you can support them, tell them Jason Burmis sent you from this video. Share a link because it's abhorrent that this thing has less than 1,000 views. Less than 1,000 views. The national media is not covering this. Okay? They're not covering this at all. So it's up to you to share this with other people. However, they are covering this, which I also think is important. Robert Kennedy Jr. is once again making waves after accusing former Lockheed aircraft employee Thane Eugene Caesar of murdering his father. On June 5th, 1968, Caesar, an employee in a classified section of Lockheed's Burbank facility, was moonlighting, weird, as a security guard at the Ambassador Hotel. He had landed the job about 1 week earlier, wrote RFK Jr. in a social media post on Thursday. Caesar waited in the pantry as my father spoke in the bathroom, then grabbed my father by the elbow and guided him towards Sirhan. He made this accusation just hours after Caesar passed away in the Philippines and 41 years after the fatal shooting. So he waited for this guy to die to make the accusation. RFK Jr. also claimed that it was Caesar unloading his gun from behind as Kennedy fell to the floor after being struck with a bullet from Sirhan's gun, who fired the fatal bullet that night. So what he's saying is there's a reason that the back of his head was missing. This guy shot him in the back of the head and probably twice in the back as well. Okay? This is his son. All right? And, you know, we can talk about the lady in the polka dot dress. We can talk about the House and Intelligence Senate Committee hearings where they came to the conclusion that the JFK, RFK, and MLK murders were likely produced by conspiracies. Nobody ever talks about that. It's in my film, Invisible Empire. Okay, you can watch that for free on my channel. If you haven't seen it, it's a very long and involved film, but as you saw yesterday, on the 18th anniversary of 9/11, we broke down chapter by chapter my film, Fabled Enemies. So maybe that's something we have to do at some point with Invisible Empire. So not only is he calling out Big Pharma, is he calling out the authoritarian state, is he saying that parents should have more rights over what they put into their children's body and less rights for the government, right? Less authoritarianism. He's doing more right now to out the deep state. Can we get the documents on these, Donnie T? Hey, Trump star. I know you couldn't give us all the JFK documents. Can we get the RFK ones, please? Can we please get those? So anytime I think about this case, I always think about this right here. And what this is, and Darren Brown, he is a quote-unquote mentalist, magician, illusionist, etc., etc. He's not huge in the United States, which I can't believe. I've been following his work for probably over a decade at this point. I find him fascinating. I think he does some really interesting stuff, but he's huge in Europe and in the UK. And this episode right here, you can see it for free on his channel. That's the only reason we're even going to scroll through it. But it's called The Assassin. And it's based on the conspiracy theory of Sirhan, the woman in the polka dotted dress, and mind controlling somebody from a large arena of human beings to carry out an assassination unknowingly through cues and suggestions. Now, Darren Brown actually talks about this on the Joe Rogan podcast when they're talking about how much this can and can't work, what the influence really is, are people ever really hypnotized? And he's kind of blasé about it. Now, and I'll say this, television is television. You never know what's staged. But I remember watching this, and in the very beginning here, you notice there's a large pool of people, right? Let's get a better shot of that. Oh, I wish we could see it a little more. Oh, of course. Take my word for it. We'll get there in a moment. It's a large pool of people. And in that large pool of people, he whittles them down through mental tests. At one point,
respond to my instructions. When your eyes are...
See, we got to mute that and take it off. So there you go. You see, again, a huge, vast number of people. There you go. That's a better look at it. And he whittles it down, he whittles it down, he whittles it down, and he gets it down to just a few. And then once he gets it down to just a few, he kind of lets them go. Like right here, they have their arm in this very, very cold piece of water. They shouldn't be able to stand it there. Basically, he's testing to see who can be hypnotized the easiest. All right? And then, unbeknownst to the person who's the best candidate, he goes through and he continues to manipulate him and give him all sorts of training with weapons, etc., with a gun. and puts him in a situation, this is the guy right here, where he will be triggered by a woman in a polka-dotted dress to carry out an assassination of a Hollywood star. Now, how much this is real, how much it is fake, I don't know. It's an interesting watch. You can watch it for free. You can make your own decisions. But I certainly don't think that the Central Intelligence Agency was trying to fail. Okay? And when we look how far they've gone with hypnosis and subversion and mind control and electronic apparatuses as well. I mean, we talk about electrodes. Go watch Minds of Men by TrueStream Media. It's undeniable. So this is a must-watch. And, you know, I guess we all know why Robert Kennedy isn't running for president. He's certainly not going to be promoted by the media, but it would be nice to have somebody up on the stage who is bringing up these very real issues of deep state murder of politicians who are trying to change things, and the right to us to define what goes into our bodies and our children's bodies and not the state. So thank you. I may not agree with everything he says and does. I certainly have take contentions with his climate agenda. But once again, RFK Jr. is on fire. And with that being said, guys, we're doing 3, 4, 5, 6, sometimes 7 videos a day on various subjects. We're going to go over later today the Air Force One special that the History Channel put out yesterday, because there was a lot of new information, and they even revealed a document that I haven't gone over. We might even try to find that document and see if we can't garner any more information from it. But that documentary, although it whitewashed a lot of things, it did reveal certain things that were never a part of that quote-unquote official version. So make sure to like this, thumbs it up, share it with others, subscribe, join the Burmese Brigade if you're new, and if you can, $5, $10, $15, it means the world to me. We got about 8 or 9 days, I think, left on this GoFundMe before we get to the next one in the next month. So we're trying to do it big, 7 days a week, about issues that matter, because it's not about left or right. It's always been about right and wrong, and I will see you guys on the flip side.